Today we are going to start with the first poem, first in my series. The poem which I like, which is in the 12th standard boards of Maharashtra syllabus. The name of the poem, in fact, the name of the poet is Robert Southey, who is a very famous, very well known English poet. Now, this poem deals with something which a person does and people remember him for that good deed. People remember him. The name of the poem is the Inchcape Rock. Now, I'll give you a little surmise about the poem. The poem is related to an adage, a saying, which is, as you sow, so shall you reap. As you sow, so shall you reap. So, this is a poem about an abbot, a priest, who had placed a bell over a very dangerous rock, which is known as the Inchcape Rock, which is a reef on the shore of Scotland. And he had placed that bell in such a way that it floated when the Inchcape Rock was dangerously submerged inside water. And when the rock was submerged inside water, the buoy, the floating object on which the bell was tied, would start floating and moving with the stormy waves. And as a result, the bell would ring. And people, the mariners, the sailors, they would come to know that there is a very dangerous rock on the side where the bell is ringing, and therefore they would never venture near the rock and they would save themselves. And that is why they would bless this particular abbot of Abercorn. But there is one more twist to the poem, and that twist is a villain named Ralph. The poet has very beautifully given Ralph the name in such a manner that you recognize that he is the worst person in that entire oceanic area. Robert Southey says, Sir Ralph the Rover. When you say Sir Ralph the Rover, rover is a pirate. Pirate, a sea robber, the one who robs ships in the ocean. And Sir is a title given to someone who has done extremely well in his field. So when I say Sir Ralph the Rover, it means he is one of the best, or in my words, one of the worst pirates in the world. So this man, when he looks at the bell, he is very jealous about the abbot, and he is so jealous that he cuts off the bell. So this entire poem is a ballad. A ballad is a story poem, a poem wherein there is a moral. Any poem which is having a moral is known as a didactic poem. A didactic, when you learn something. From this poem, we learn, as you sow, so shall you reap. What happens to Sir Ralph in the end of the poem is beautifully conveyed by Robert Southey. So all these elements of the poem put together makes a beautiful reading of the poem. The first stanza of the poem is, no stir in the air, no stir in the sea. The ship was as still as she could be. Her sails from heaven received the motion, her keel was steady in the ocean. The first 4 lines, the first 8 lines, in fact, of the poem. No stir in the air, no stir in the sea. So there was no movement in the air. Stir means movement, S-T-I-R. There is no movement in the air, there is no movement in the sea. The ship was as still as she could be. Meaning what? Because there is no movement there is no wind, there is no breeze. The environment is very calm and quiet. So because there is no movement of the air, there is no wind blowing, and there is no movement in the sea, it means there are no waves. So when there is no wind, of course the sails will not move. When there is no movement in the sea, means there are no waves, of course the ship will not move. So if there is no movement in the air, means there is no wind, there are no waves, the ship will not move. It's on water, I know, but it will not move. So when there is no movement in the air, no movement in the sea, how will be the ship? The ship would be as still as she could be. Meaning, the ship is not moving at all. Then what does the poet say the next stanza? He says that because there is no movement in the air, there is no movement in the sea, then the waves are moving very little, very little. So as you go on reading the stanzas, the first canto, C-A-N-T-O, the first part of the poem depicts a very calm and very quiet environment. And this is very important. This is very important. We look into the second part of the poem in my next video.